Coming up, the Celtics and Lakers battle it out in overtime, and the Bucks take down the champs. This is Locked On Game to Game NBA.
Every game, every team, every angle. Locked On Game to Game, your team every day.
Welcome in. You are listening to Locked On Game to Game NBA, local experts taking you through the biggest stories on the hardwood. I am your host, Kainani Stevens. Thank you so much for making Locked On your first listen every single weekday. We're ready to recap the action for you from yesterday. The Celtics and Lakers overtime matchup had a little bit of everything. Truly probably came down to who had the most gas left in the tank at the end of OT. Locked On Lakers and Locked On Celtics fill you in on everything postgame.
The Celtics ran hot and cold, came out to a 20-point lead, blew it, and then came back in overtime. I'm John Corrales of the Locked On Celtics podcast. And where do you start with a game like this? When the Celtics went up 20 in the third quarter, it felt like they relaxed. They're at the end of a long road trip, and it just looked like they said, okay, we've got this, and then started playing their worst basketball of the season. But then in the fourth quarter, the tables turned, and the Lakers started falling apart. They started getting tired, and the Celtics were able to take advantage. This just came down to, honestly, who had the freshest legs at the very, very end. And I think it's just because Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum are a little younger that they were able to find something in reserve to pull this win out. I said before the game, I didn't care about the aesthetics, just find a way. The Celtics found a way, and now they come out of this road trip 4-2.
This is Brian Kamenetsky, co-host of Locked On Lakers. The Lakers down by 20 against Boston in the second half, climb up by as much as 13, but then ultimately lose in a crushing overtime loss, 122-118, the final score against the Celtics. No answer for Jayson Tatum for the Lakers, but ultimately this one comes down to a wasted opportunity. The Lakers had every chance to win this game. Anthony Davis, who was very good, over 30 points again, but he missed two free throws down the stretch that would have iced it for the Lakers. And just as it was in Philadelphia, it's what Anthony Davis couldn't do at the free throw line that defined a game for the Lakers, a massive missed opportunity to score a victory against the league's best team. This one hurts on a lot of levels. More to come on Locked On Lakers.
The Milwaukee Bucks are good at home. The Golden State Warriors are bad on the road, so you could probably predict how things were going to end up on Tuesday. Locked On Bucks are in to go over an important win for Milwaukee.
The Milwaukee Bucks start a very difficult stretch of the schedule with a big win at home over the Golden State Warriors. My name's Kane Pittman. I'm the host of the Locked On Bucks podcast. For all the talk of the Milwaukee defense limiting three-point attempts this season, the Golden State Warriors got up 50 tonight. But fortunately for the Bucks, between Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Jordan Poole, they finished 8 for 24. And certainly if you're an opposition playing the Warriors, you'll take that on any given night. Giannis struggled with his jump shot. He still got his 30. By far the dominant player on the floor, even if the outside shot wasn't going for him. But what about Bobby Portis? This man has to be in sixth man of the year calculations. 25 points and 11 rebounds. He's a double-double machine. He's a mismatch machine. He gets the small guys down low. He scores over the top of them. Overall, no Drew Holiday tonight for the Bucks, but an important win to make up for a disappointing loss against the Houston Rockets on the weekend.
The Red Hot Pelicans winning streak stopped in Utah last night. Locked On Pelicans says that Zion Williamson needs some backup now more than ever.
The New Orleans Pelicans came to Salt Lake City, Utah on an 8-game win streak, and the Utah Jazz came back to full health for the first time since November 19th and put out their best performance of the year, blowing the Pelicans out 121-100. David Locke of Locked On Jazz. The Jazz had Mike Conley, Lauri Markkanen, and Jordan Clarkson back in the starting lineup for the first time since November 19th when the Jazz were 12-6. Since then, the Jazz have lost 8-11, and tonight, they announced that they can play with the best in the West as they beat the Pelicans by 21. The Jazz were down 1 when Zion Williamson picked up his third foul with 9 minutes left in the second quarter. The Pelicans proceed to shoot 3 of their next 17, and the Jazz led the game by 7 at the half before blowing it wide open in the third quarter. Jazz got monster performances tonight from Jared Vanderbilt and Nickeil Alexander-Walker as this team continues to show its marvelous depth. For more on this, go to Locked On Jazz.
The Pelicans' winning streak comes to an end, and you can see they need Brandon Ingram back. I'm Jake Madison from Locked On Pelicans and Locked On NBA. It just wasn't the Pelicans' night as they struggled to generate any offense outside of Zion Williamson in a 21-point loss to the Utah Jazz. You don't want to overreact to one loss too much, but Zion created a bunch of open looks for New Orleans, and they couldn't knock him down, going 4 of 27 from 3. While the Pelicans may be the deepest team in the league, you do need stars to win you games. And with CJ McCollum struggling this year, the Pelicans need to get Brandon Ingram back soon. He had a setback in his rehab from a big toe injury. He's going to be reevaluated in 1 week. Hopefully, New Orleans can find some more offense until then.
That's going to do it for this edition of Locked On Game to Game NBA. Thank you so much for making Locked On your first listen every weekday. Make sure you are subscribed to Locked On NBA and, of course, your favorite team's Locked On podcast on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts from. I'm Kainani Stevens. This has been Locked On Game to Game.